Okay, so this is a review of some recent work. This is what you're looking at now is the contact sheet of all the photos that I've selected from a piece of a bit of a day in the studio and a day producing a small documentary profile piece about Liz Lin, who is the actress in this studio session. She hit me up and wanted to collaborate on some projects, so this is what we could pull off. We've spent about 3 to 4 hours in the studio just before Christmas, and we shot on about 4 different cameras, 1 video camera and 3 photography cameras. I got an A7RIII, a Olympus OM1, a Mamiya C3 Professional, and then my Sony FS7, and we're about to go through a lot of the core pieces of equipment that I used on this shoot. So this is the Olympus OM1. This camera we shot 1 roll of color film. I think it was ENC, ECN, whatever that film is. Cinema film reloaded into 35mm canisters. So yeah, mostly turned those photos black and white, but I didn't mind a few of them. The Olympus OM1 is really nice though. This footage, everything that you'll see is shot on the Super 35mm sensor of the FS7, and it's all getting shot through a Sigma 35mm f1.2, one of their art lenses, and it is so killer. Back to the Olympus OM1. I've had this camera for a while and shot a lot of film through it. I think mechanically there's nothing wrong with it. It works really well. I do occasionally, sometimes you start shooting film and you realize that they're all underexposed or over, something's weird about it, and then you might think, okay, maybe the battery in the light meter needs to be replaced. So I've replaced the light meter a few times. The FS7 is fantastic. I shot a lot of these shots in S&Q mode, so the slow mo is just baked in, and I just think it looks so nice, and it's so cool to just see it in post just already slowed. But a few of the shots in slow motion I have actually sped back up to regular speed, and it's just nice to have the versatility. But the FS7 records things a little differently, so it is nice. Yeah, the 50mm on the Olympus OM1 is just butter. Full frame, and the 1.2 occasionally used, but I was doing all the light meters off of my phone, and I've got a light meter app on my phone, and it works pretty well with this. I think the Olympus OM1 is pretty versatile, but I wouldn't mind having a little ND filter to put on. I don't know if that really worked that well, but these are the few photos that I did like from the OM1. So the wide photo, probably my favorite from the day, and then this black and white photo. The black and white is an edit. The original film was probably color, and I think it was the same roll of film as this one. So, but I just liked the colors. I liked how the light kind of fell, kind of melds around her a little bit, and the background's kind of a bit texturized, but not in a greasy way. The original film had just had a bit of a warmer tone, but I don't know. That's just my edit. I don't usually edit my film photos. They're usually kind of more like travel pics or in the moment. I don't mind how they come out, but for the studio shot, I was looking for something a little cleaner. This black and white one, I just don't think I really loved the colors too much. I could have used the same colors as the last film, and it probably would have worked out alright. If they do want it in color, if Liz wants it in color, then I can go back. But I didn't mind how the black and white looked on this one. To be honest, we were mostly going for just a clean look, so we didn't have a lot of time to shape lights around these subjects. So, and that's the probably the 2 film photos I liked the most. But there's a few other film photos that look alright. Those are all from the Olympus OM1. Now the C3 Professional is a bit of a funny camera. I think mechanically it's not the best. At least my unit doesn't work that well. No light leaks. The light leaks are really nice, and the film comes out really well when you expose correctly. But my biggest problem is that it doesn't always reset after it fires. So I'm getting a lot of double exposures and I'm definitely not wanting them, but I'll talk more about that later. This footage from the FS7, we essentially, towards the end of the day, we needed a lot more B-roll and I knew it. So we just decided to shoot this little scene up against the blown out window, and we used that for the B-roll. So I think it worked out alright. I got a couple of photos on the Mamiya in that scene as well, and they turned out pretty interesting. But what I was saying before is it doesn't fire, and it leads to me just having to reload it and then re-fire it, and then it's a double exposure. So in the last roll of film, I just said, it's so inconsistent. I'm just going to cover the film when it wants me to reload and take another shot. But anyway, this is the few shots that we got from it. So I'm really happy this black and white one wasn't a double exposure. And this is an example of 2 double exposures, but I actually kind of like them. I think they make like good like key artwork for maybe like a Netflix series or some sort of a poster. But here's a look at the Sigma art lens that I've had, and I've had this for a long time. It's a great lens for photography, but I've been using it more so for video work right now. The focusing mechanism's a little tricky, and because the autofocus on the FS7 is kind of shit, then you kind of got to manually focus, but the focus pull is so far on that lens that you just want to get your focus and then make sure like you don't have to change focus. It's not that good for sports on the FS7 sports, but it's a good lens generally. I'm using these anti-reflective filters on the lens as well. We just had them for work, so I'm going to test them. And if they're on the lens for Liz Lin's footage, but you can't really see any reflections in that footage. So I'm doing a few tests here as well, and it's like a variable ND. It actually adds a little bit of ND as well, but you just whack it on the front of the lens. It's 82mm diameter, which is nice, but works well for this Sigma art lens. That's 82mm, and you can kind of see that it cuts out the reflections. It's pretty nice. So if you pay attention to the lens that's on the 35mm lens that's on the table, you can see it adds ND to the whole scene, and then also just cuts out that reflection. And you can adjust it, as you can see, you can adjust it so that it's more or less reflection, but you know, it just might give you that extra look of professionalism if you're looking for something anti-reflective, or if you are shooting. A lot of people use this in car photography, so a lot of reflections in the cars, but could work for anything. I think I'll be using it for the next few projects to really get a good feel for the reflective things in the scenes. But this is a look at the contact sheet of all the photos I liked, and I'm pretty happy with the collection. A few of them would make my portfolio, and I've got a couple of them on my Instagram, and the video footage is mostly for my portfolio. But now we're gonna go through if you're not sick of hearing my voice yet, wow. We're going to go through the video footage. So generally we just pretty much backlit this, and we did have a light, which you'll see a little bit later in the footage, just onto the scene. And I mean, mostly backlit interview, but a bit of a wraparound light as a bit of a fill. And yeah, I just got her to do a few of these shots. I mean, I would have been kind of directing her amongst them, and a lot of long takes. I didn't have a whole lot of B-roll to work with this one, but yeah, I would have liked the whole 3 hours to actually produce the interview and just see what it would have been like with that kind of attention to detail. But because I was doing all the photography on the different cameras, but I really wanted to test myself with this one, so 4 cameras, why not? But I'm really happy with the poses and the scenes that Liz was giving me with this one. I mean, there wasn't a lot of direction, but I think she kind of knew the vibe that I was giving, and we didn't have too many props, so shoes it is, but Liz killed it. And this outfit, I think the scruffy kind of look with the metal bars and the chaos in the background works quite well. The original plan was to do just a video, but then we added the photography content, and yeah, it just ended up being a good experiment to see what my limits are and what to do under pressure with multiple cameras. Anyway, that's the video. If you liked this, there's a couple other examples of work that's on the screen now, and feel free to subscribe and definitely leave a comment about whatever you saw in this video if you liked it.